Are we ready? Are we ready? For chapter 29. I couldn't remember. I was thinking about it earlier today. And I was like, am I reading chapter 29 or am I reading chapter 30 today? That's how much we have left of this book. Can you believe that? Like, it feels like yesterday I started reading it, and now all of a sudden we're almost done. So, chapter 29, Thursday, January 3rd. January 3rd, 2009. It is raining like crazy. Sorry, the light's gonna do what it is. This is an audio book, right? We're okay with weird light. It is raining like crazy. It is an insane storm out of nowhere. This is my favorite kind of weather. I know it's weird, but it kind of feels like a little reward for all the work we've done. Yeah, that does sound stupid. Moving on. I think Cam is hiding something about when he came back. He seemed to be debating whether to tell us something yesterday at the library, and I think he chose not to, but I also don't want to push him. I want him to talk to me when he's ready, but I'm also super curious. Change of subject, otherwise I might use magic and regret it. We're at Madame Ortega's. Surprising, I know. I spend more time here than at my own house, and I'm not mad about it. I need to finish my interview with her, and she said she needs to talk to us. What are you writing? Cam asked, sitting on the couch next to Nikki. Emma was asleep on the other couch, and Nellie was gently snoring face down on the floor, a throw pillow squashed between her arm and face. Just stuff in my journal, Nikki whispered. Actually, I should be working on questions to ask Madame Ortega. Why? Remember forever ago, the first time we came here and it was for a school project? Nikki asked, grabbing her bag. She traded her journal for her notebook. Yeah, Cam said. Well, the project is due tomorrow, and I haven't worked on it since that first week. I've been a little busy. Cam laughed. I think a little busy is probably an understatement. Yeah, Nikki said, probably. She spent the next 10 minutes writing up questions she thought would work well for her project and cross-referencing them with the rubric Mr. Miranda had passed out in their project packets. She figured she could interview Ethel after they finished with whatever it was the old medium had planned. Nikki's mind wandered. Her thoughts turned to Henry. She barely knew him, but no. She turned her attention back to her schoolwork. Finally, after an hour, Ethel and Kate showed up. Nikki was the only one still awake to see the older women sheltering under a black and white umbrella as they walked toward the house. She opened the door for them, giving them a straight line from the cold storm to the warmth of the house. From the cold of the storm to the warmth of the house. Merry meet, dear, Kate said, seeing Nikki at the door and hugging her. Merry meet, Grandma, Nikki said. Where is everyone else? Kate asked as she entered the house, looking around. Asleep. Nikki pointed vaguely to the front room. Well, I think you ought to wake them, Ethel said, shaking her umbrella outside before closing it. I'll be ready for you all soon. Is there food? Nellie only wakes up for food, Nikki said, grinning. Ethel chuckled and winked. After. I'll see you all later, Kate said. I've got quite a few things to do, and I probably won't see you for the rest of the night. Be sure to stop by after school tomorrow. You start again tomorrow, right? Nikki nodded. Good. See you tomorrow, little witch. Kate hugged Nikki again, kissed her cheek, and disappeared into one of the many rooms at the back of the house. Nikki woke everyone up, starting with Cam, and then Emma, and finally Nellie. Go over to the table, please, Ethel called from a back room. Nikki sat down as the weary trio wandered over to their seats. She pulled her braid out, combing her fingers through her hair. Any idea what we're doing yet? Nellie asked as she stretched. Nope, Nikki said, rebraiding her hair. I think we're getting another reading, Emma said between yawns. How do you know? Nikki asked. Emma rubbed her eyes and pointed to the end of the table. The many jars and containers were back. Ethel chose that moment to walk toward them carrying a tray which held cups and a pillar candle. Emma, Ethel said, handing her a cup and then sitting down. Emma didn't say anything. She just stood and moved to the end of the table. Sunlight danced off the bottle, sending bits of rainbow fluttering around the room. Emma picked up a short, squat decanter filled with a glossy green liquid. As she unstoppered it, she felt a sudden urge to throw it across the room. Startled by this odd desire, she replaced the stopper and set the decanter down. But as she searched through the others for an alternate liquid for her reading, she kept coming back to the same glossy green liquid. Emma could feel everyone's eyes on her as she created her concoction. "Nikki," Ethel said as she watched Emma, "the candle, if you please." "What? Oh, yeah, sure." Nikki closed her eyes for a moment, concentrated, opened her eyes, and the candle was lit. "Thank you." Ethel moved her hands over the candle in a cupping motion, her top hand becoming the bottom hand and vice versa. "Emma, trust your instincts, dear." "Right." Emma sighed. She poured the green liquid into her cup, followed by a dash of something pungent and brown. Her hands moved quickly now, a dash of poppy seeds, a sprig of fresh thyme, a pinch of anemone petals, a sprinkle of dried yarrow, and a plop of blended aloe, and she was done. Emma handed the... Sorry, I just found a comma where it doesn't belong, and I'm like, no. Emma handed the cup to her grandmother and sat in front of her. Ethel covered the top of Emma's cup with her hand and closed her eyes, muttering her bit of magic over the cup and its contents. Gently placing the cup on the table to let the magic do its work, Ethel returned her attention to Emma. "Clear your mind. Focus your breath." They sat in silence. "Focus on your breath." They sat in silence until finally Ethel said, "Are you ready?" Emma shrugged. "As ready as I can be, I guess." Ethel nodded and picked up the cup. The concoction had transformed into an opaque mustard yellow liquid. As black dots bubbled from the center, Ethel gasped. "What is it?" Emma asked, leaning forward. "A warning," Ethel whispered. "Your inner psyche wishes to communicate something to you." She pointed to the strange shape forming on the surface of the liquid, the black standing in stark contrast to the muted yellow behind it. "It warns you to be careful of whom you trust." "Who?" The shape shifted, changing between the Triskelion and a dove and back again. Ethel's brow furrowed as she watched the shapes move. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "What is it?" Emma asked. "What do those symbols mean?" "Your reading is one of warning, but these," she gestured to the cup, "suggest you should beware of growth and peace." But Ethel shook her head. The shapes changed into something new, into something different. "Now this," Ethel said, watching the shape, "this warns of the poverty of consciousness. It is a warning to look into your inner light for guidance, but in the company of the other images there is no general warning. They have not shed further detail on those whom you should not trust." "What's that?" Emma asked as the symbol shifted again. "This symbol ought to show you the way to best apply this message to your life." As Ethel watched the shape form more clearly, it sunk. "It's not supposed to do that, is it?" Emma asked, already knowing the answer to her question. "This is impossible. In all my years, I've never..." Ethel stopped short. A new image was forming, one that was thick and oozing, sitting atop the liquid like oil on water. The image was easily deciphered, even by the likes of you or me. Blood red and shining, the image of a skull stared back at Ethel and Emma. Death. Emma swallowed. "But death just means change," she said quickly. "Right? Doesn't it? I mean, I've seen it in readings before. It's not necessarily bad, right?" Ethel simply looked at Emma. Then, without addressing Emma's concerns, color fading from her face, Ethel put her hand over the cup, muttering quickly. Her hand glowed with a soft yellow light. When she removed her hand, the skull faded, reversing its appearance until finally the sunken shape rose once again, the black somehow more comforting now. "What's it mean?" Emma asked, staring at the image. "A goblet." "The spirits are sending you a message," Ethel said finally. "There is someone out there of whom you must be wary, and even though you may choose the higher path and attempt to fulfill your true potential, this being will lead you to another place, by force, if necessary. You must train your magic to guide you. The liquid sizzled in the cup, dissipating in steam. As the silent minutes ticked by, they simultaneously felt like hours and mere seconds. Someone is coming for me, Emma said simply. The warnings from the beyond, the reading, the magic in the fire and water, the block in her visions, all at once everything felt aimed at her. Emma stood up quietly, moved to her bag, grabbed her journal, and jotted down the names and meanings of each of the symbols in this reading. She squeezed her grandmother's hand and nodded. Then Emma took the now empty cup to the kitchen. Cameron, Ethel said quietly. Cam stood, his gaze fixed on the collection of bottles and jars as he switched seats with Emma. The old woman no longer scared him, but a warning in his heart made him pause for a moment before he took the cup she offered him. He licked his lips and swallowed. Take your time, dear, Ethel said softly. Cam looked at Ethel. Her eyes were soft, yet cosmic. He nodded. Despite Ethel's assurance he could take his time, Cam rushed through the filling of his cup. Milk, sunflower seeds, pink salt, dried butterfly weed, and crushed chrysanthemum petals. He handed the cup to Ethel and sat. Ethel smiled at him before she began her bit of magic. A simple reading for you, I think, she said as she set the cup down. Cam nodded. A reading of your past, present, and future, Ethel said. She peered over the edge of the table to look into the cup. Look. Look. Scooting to the edge of his chair to see, Cam looked and watched the liquid swirl, changing from the white of milk to the clean blue of the sky, before finally settling at a nice pale and minty green. Ethel picked up the cup, and the image of a sword formed in dark green at the surface. You have quite astounding past accomplishments. You've traveled the pathway of water, and are open to your subconscious. The image morphed into a palm frond. Ethel swallowed and smiled. What's it mean? Cam asked. Your 6 senses are developing nicely, and your 7th will start soon, if it has not already begun to develop. You're a hard worker and selfless. There was meaning in this image the medium did not communicate. Ethel had not the heart to tell him the palm frond was the symbol of the martyr. She did not know he had died. If she had, she may have been more truthful with him. She may have connected his last reading to this one. But she did not. It would not be the last time information withheld caused withheld information. Ethel smiled as the image shifted. There is love and compassion. There is humility and the gift of being as a little child. You have a bright future. She patted Cam on the cheek gently. Ethel stood, retreating to the kitchen for a moment. She poured herself a glass of water and brought it back with her to the dining room. She began moving her hands over the candle, cleansing between readings. I will take Nellie next, Ethel said, sitting down. Nellie swapped places with Cam. You know what to do, Ethel said. Ethel watched as Nellie filled up her cup. I'm sure you remember Nellie's last reading, so it's quite easy to understand the bundle of nerves that fluttered through her as she filled the cup, though there was one marked difference. Last time, Nellie had been in denial about who she was, about what she was. Now she had accepted it. Now she understood, at least more so than last time, and most importantly, now she was open to whatever information she could get. After filling her cup, water, and milk with dried eucalyptus, seeds from a hollyhock, chunky salt, and just a pinch of powdered milkweed, and handing it to Ethel, Nellie sat, her leg bouncing madly already. She looked into the cup the moment Ethel removed her hand from the top. It slowly swirled. This time, it turned bright, shimmering turquoise. Let's do this, Nellie said, squaring her shoulders. Ethel smiled, retrieving the cup. The first image appeared. Though the image itself was clear and still, the liquid that formed it changed from dark blue to purple to black and back again. You've had bounty and good fortune, Ethel said. Hey, Nellie said. That's the star, like last time. Ethel smiled and nodded. Yes. The star faded as a new shape took form, and another shape easily recognizable to you Okay. The star faded as a new shape took form, another shape easily recognizable to you and I, the sun. This shows you have an overall satisfaction with your life. There is regeneration occurring, renewal. It also hints at an upcoming trip. Ethel raised her eyebrows. That's good news. Nellie breathed easier. The sun shifted into something neither you nor I would recognize, a shape Nellie certainly didn't know, but Ethel must have, because she said, there is a struggle ahead, and you must persevere through the turmoil. It, too, tells of an upcoming journey. You must use your mind to control your body. The liquid faded until it was as clear as Ethel's glass of water. Thanks, Nellie said, looking at Ethel. This should have had more meaning to her since her initiation into the magical world, but as Nellie didn't know how to read a reading, she did what came most naturally to her. She smiled and shrugged. Nikki, Ethel said, cleansing her hands once again. Right, Nikki said, standing and filling her cup. She did this easily and quickly. Going last had given her the opportunity to make her choices before ever being presented with the cup. Apple cider vinegar and dandelion oil made up her liquid base. She sprinkled in morning glory petals, ground rosemary, and a bit of crushed walnut. Nikki sat still, willing her stomach to settle as she watched Ethel mutter and wait. Finally, her mixture was ready. It was softly glowing and bright green. Blue images began forming. Ethel raised her eyebrows. All elements are at your disposal. This image represents the conscious mind. If you concentrate with focused energy on a single goal, you can draw any force you need to complete your task. The image swirled, forming something new and recognizable. Growing through imagination. This image is birth. It represents time itself. The sword was in my last reading, wasn't it? Nikki asked. Ethel nodded. The sword morphed. What's that mean? Nikki asked. Strength, Ethel said, raising an eyebrow. You must develop your life force. You need to be more spiritually oriented. Ethel paused. When Nikki met her gaze, Ethel spoke again. You have the potential to be a woman of dominion. Dominion? Nikki asked, as her liquid faded to clarity. What does that mean? I believe it will be quite an adventure to discover, Ethel said with a smile. She stood suddenly. I think I'll take a nap. You can help yourselves to anything you find in the refrigerator or cupboards. The candle, Nikki, if you don't mind. Right, of course. Nikki put the candle out with a wink. 3 January 2009. A warning. Warning of trusting too soon. A warning of death? But the symbol of death isn't meant to be taken literally. And even if it was, a life force never dies, it simply changes form. Grandma taught me that. She's been taking a nap and we've been working on our project. Nellie went home to finish her bit and pick up the poster board. I was supposed to get it, but I never really got around to it. Emma was in the living room, cuddled under an Afghan, writing in her journal. Her grandmother emerged from her room. Is Nikki still here? Ethel asked. In the kitchen, Emma said, nodding her head in that direction. She listened as Ethel and Nikki chatted for a moment. Nikki had more questions for the project. Emma got up from the couch and folded the Afghan, placing it on the back of the couch. She quietly went into the kitchen and found Cam, who was eating some cookies he and Nikki had found in the cookie jar. These are okay to eat, right? He asked her, a mouthful of cookie. They're fine, Emma said. Come with me. Wiping crumbs off his face and hands, Cam followed Emma into the library. Whoa, he said when they got inside. This is like that scene from Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, Emma said, still smiling. I guess it is a bit. She walked over to the pillows and pulled a few out. Take a seat. Cam sat, eyes wide open, as though attempting to devour the numberless books. It would take several lifetimes to read all of these. Emma pulled out a book and brought it over to him. I want to show you something. What's that? Cam asked. He touched the leather-bound book. The book itself was larger than anything he had ever seen, but the volume was thin. It couldn't have been more than 200 pages. He tried to read the cover, but the letters had faded to illegibility. This is a record of the prophecies made by the high priestess the third, Zoya Vikar, Emma said. What's a priestess? Cam asked, and how old is this book? Well, for your second question, at least 2,000 years old, but probably older, Emma said, flipping through the pages. Why isn't it a crumbling mound of dust? Cam touched the edges of the book. Magic, Emma said, shrugging. Cool. Cam's eyes widened. Yep, Emma flipped a few more pages. As for your first question, the High Priestess is the highest honor of the magical order As for your first question, the High Priestess is the highest honor of the magical order of the Psychics. Cam sat for a second and then said, The Mops? Emma laughed. I guess, but that's not technically what they're called. What are they called? Only those within the order know, Emma said with a small smile. She stopped flipping pages and looked at Cam. Words have power. Names have power. So the name of the order is only given to those within the order. But they're all psychics, right? Cam asked. A bunch of people like you, people who can see the future, people who have visions? More or less, Emma said, moving her head side to side. The high priestess, or priest in rare cases, is someone who receives prophecies, not just visions. What's the difference? Emma took a deep breath. I have visions, she said. They're visions because I'll be there. Whether it's to witness, ensure, or stop the event, I will be there, physically. Cam thought for a moment. So a prophecy is like a vision, but so far in the future, the person who sees it won't be alive to actually experience it. Exactly, Emma said. I see why you skipped a few grades. Cam grinned and then frowned. So why are you showing this to me? This, Emma said, pointing to a passage. Emma pointed to a passage. The handwriting was scrawled, tiny, and almost impossible to read. Cam looked at the passage. After a minute, he said, Can you read it? I can't. Of course, Emma said, smiling. It does take a little practice. She cleared her throat and read, The 9th moon of the 50th year of the 3rd High Priestess, prophecy 20 and 700. And he shall rise, though he has fallen, and he shall be one once he was two. He shall guard the chosen, though the chosen will not choose him. What does it mean? Cam asked. I think she means you, Emma said. See the first line? And he shall rise, though he has fallen? I think that's talking about you. Because, Cam looked around quickly and then whispered, because I died, but I came back? Exactly, Emma said. What about the rest of it? Cam said. The one once he was two, or the guard the chosen. What about that stuff? What's it mean? I don't know, Emma admitted. Would you trust me if I just said I believe this is talking about you? Even as Cam nodded, doubt rippled through him, his near-death message echoing in his mind. January 309. It's practically midnight, but I'm finally done with this project. Today was a trip, but what day hasn't been since I started growing a tail? More weird stuff at Madame Ortega's, but I'll write about that later. The truth is I'm kind of putting off going to sleep. I haven't told anyone, but every night since the tidal wave, I'd have had nightmares. Like vivid, wake up, drenched in sweat nightmares. They're always the same. I dive down to save Cam, and I pull him out like I did, but in the dream I fail. I haven't slept since. I'm just so tired. Nellie's phone rang. It was Wyatt. She took a deep breath and clicked the answer button. Hey, she said. How are you? Good, he said quietly. I mean, better. Wyatt, I meant to call, she said quickly. Things have just been completely insane, Wyatt offered. His voice was still hoarse. Nellie chuckled. Yeah, basically. Listen, I know you told me not to help them, but I had to. I mean, if I didn't, I'd be dead, Wyatt said simply. Nellie wasn't sure how to respond. Silence sat fat between them. Nels, Wyatt said, I was so stupid. I'm sorry. Me too, Nellie said. I hate that things have been weird between us, and I know I get into my own world sometimes. It's all just been so much to process, but I can't even serve to process anymore. I just don't. It's okay. He sounded sincere. Nellie sighed. I'm going to keep helping them, Why? She said. They're good people. I think you should follow your gut, Wyatt said. It's never led you wrong before. It doesn't necessarily take the path of least resistance, but neither do you. He chuckled. Nellie laughed. Is that a nice way of saying I make my life harder than it has to be? Wyatt snickered and slowly said, maybe. Nellie laughed again. I will say, I'm not sure I trust them. I don't know. Do you trust me? Always. Nellie sighed. Then that's all I need for right now. Maybe I should have said mostly, Wyatt teased. I mean, you remember that time you said I could definitely surf that pipe and I almost died? Ugh, shut up. You did not almost die. You just got a little banged up. I got 8 stitches. Nellie cried for a second before bursting out laughing. She could hear Wyatt cracking up on the other side of the phone. When she finally managed to catch her breath, she said, I've missed this. Me too, Nels. They talked for an hour before Tom had to come in and remind Nellie there was school in the morning. Nellie's heart felt full as she hung up with Wyatt. At least one thing still felt like the old days. Just a bit more magical. Okay, we have 2 chapters left. So chapter 30 will be next week, and then chapter 31, and then that's the end of the book. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. Anyway. If you want to read it, it's on the Amazons, although honestly at this point, if you've made it through this, you can probably wait 2 or more weeks to find out how the book ends.